Welcome to The Nation Diplomatic Dispatch, your window into the world of diplomacy and global affairs. On today's episode, we discuss Malaysia-Brazil relations with Her Excellency Daniella Ortega Menezes, Ambassador of Brazil to Malaysia. As Malaysia and Brazil continue to strengthen their partnership with us, we explore what lies ahead for ties between the two nations. Her Excellency, welcome to The Nation Diplomatic Dispatch. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you, Jessie. Thanks for having me on the show.
Such a pleasure. Now, 2025 marked an important phase in both countries' bilateral relations. There were a series of high-level engagements between both governments as well. How would you describe the current trajectory in terms of bilateral ties between both nations?
Yes, 2025 was indeed a landmark year in bilateral relations between Brazil and Malaysia. We had first Prime Minister Dr. Sri Anwar Ibrahim traveling to Brazil in July 2025 for the Leaders BRICS Summit. Actually, just a personal note, I was still in Brazil before taking my assignment here in Malaysia and had the opportunity of meeting him in Rio and his ministerial and business delegation.
That was a nice, warm introduction.
Exactly. And then President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva also came to Malaysia in October 2025, of course during the summits, the ASEAN summits. And this, also on a personal note, it was just less than 3 months after my arrival to Malaysia, so I feel like very fortunate to having taken part in both these visits that represent a lot in our bilateral relations. So these high-level engagements, like you said, they are very important usually in diplomacy because they are a moment when we get the leaders together and we find convergence in a lot of topics in our bilateral agenda. So this has been very important to have the visits in 2025, but we need to keep pushing because Brazil and Malaysia are still way beyond the potential of engagement that we could have. So in the next years ahead, this year 2026 and moving forward, we will be looking for new areas to explore, new agreements, and also we should be holding this year, 2026, the framework mechanisms that we have in our bilateral relationship, which are the political consultations and the Joint Trade Commission meetings, and it should be held in Brazil this year.
Well, an exciting year indeed, and as well as your appointment, since you've hit the ground running, it's been one flagship event after the other. You mentioned convergence and new areas to explore. What would be on that priority list as we look towards strengthening both bilateral ties?
Yes, during the visit of President Lula here last October, there was also a joint statement, and in this joint statement, the leaders set out the priority areas for the future, and obviously trade, investment, science, technology and innovation, technical cooperation in health, agriculture, and there are lots of areas that we will be looking ahead into working with Malaysia.
Your Excellency, whenever leaders meet at summits, there's always an interest to explore new areas, as you've pointed out as well. Since President Lula's last visit in October, we've seen a flurry of MOUs, yet Malaysia's trade deficit with Brazil remains significant. As an upright partner, can you point to perhaps some of the areas that Brazil has dismantled for Malaysia in the recent past or the recent months that can actually help to facilitate our exports?
Sure. But if I may take one step back, I just would like to first make a few comments about President Lula's visit last year to Malaysia. It was the very first time a Brazilian president took part in the ASEAN summit. So this was very important for us, not only for the bilateral relationship, but also for relations with Malaysia. We had, during the summit, President Lula, of course, had the bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister. Right. We also hosted a bilateral business meeting where we brought 100 business delegates from Brazil, top CEOs, to meet their counterparts here in Malaysia. We also, of course, had the participation in the ASEAN summits, and President Lula also spoke at the ASEAN Business Forum. He also took the opportunity of meeting other world leaders who were here in Malaysia at the time. And I'm sure people might have seen in the news that he also met President Trump of the United States, which was also a very good opportunity to break the ice that was going on between, the relations between Brazil and the US at the time. So this is just to give the like a background for the visit. But you ask about outcomes, about MOUs, right? What has been signed, what we are moving forward to doing with Malaysia. And of course, these MOUs that were signed were basically to bring our agencies together, our institutions, so they can collaborate and work together, sharing knowledge. For us, this is very important because this is the kind of relation we have with countries from the global south, where we are able to work in a more horizontal fashion, sharing knowledge and not just having things imposed from other countries. So yeah, I think this was a very significant visit, and I think it will be remembered in Brazilian foreign policy for the years ahead. Yes.
Right. President Lula has also emphasized the importance of business-led engagement, noting that governments must also facilitate and not just replace when it interacts with the private sector and some of the initiatives there. What concrete steps would you say Brazil is taking to encourage Brazilian companies to explore long-term partnerships and investments here in Malaysia?
Yes. I mentioned the BRICS summit in Brazil in 2025. Just to give a note about that, at that time, both Prime Minister Anwar and President Lula spoke at the opening of the BRICS Business Summit. Right. And President Lula then accepted the invitation to come here and told the audience, I want you all with me in Malaysia. I'm going there. I want a huge delegation. And this happened. So we managed to bring, like I said before, this huge delegation here to interact with their Malaysian counterparts. But during the business roundtable here in Malaysia was also very interesting, that President Lula told the Brazilian CEOs, you were not here just to sell or to ask for Malaysian companies to invest in Brazil. Mm-hmm. You are here also to buy and to invest in Malaysia. So please engage, because we need a balanced relation. We need a win-win situation. We need something that make both countries grow together. So this was very interesting, and this is, we see the private sector as very relevant. And just to give you an example, here in Malaysia we've had Vale, the Brazilian mining company. Right. Vale made a strategic decision to chose Malaysia as a place, as a hub for its operations in the region since 2014. This has been the largest foreign direct investment in the state of Perak, and is the largest Latin American investment in Malaysia. At the same time, we have Malaysian companies like Petronas with investments in Brazil, other companies like Inson, MISC, they are part of the oil and gas industry in Brazil. And so we, of course, the private sector needs to do their part, but governments need to facilitate, like you said. And with regards to that, Brazil and Malaysia started negotiating two agreements. One is the anti-double taxation agreement, and another agreement to facilitate investments. So this is a way to create a better regulatory environment so that companies can strengthen their partnerships.
In terms of engagement, Brazil was Malaysia's second largest trading partner in Latin America. The total bilateral trade, as I understand, or as of 2025, standing at over $5 billion US. In terms of better engagement as we move forward, there has been interest, and it's been highlighted in the agriculture, agro-food, food security and technology sectors as well. What is Brazil's interest or view in terms of the potential for deeper cooperation cooperation within these sectors?
Yes, there is strong potential still untapped. During the visit of President Lula last October 2025, there was an agreement signed between Embrapa, which is the Brazilian Technological Agriculture Agency, and its counterpart here in Malaysia, MADI, to cooperate in biotechnology and in dealing with all sorts of technical issues with dealing with nature and animal and plant materials. And this is very important that we share knowledge, because we have similar climate and we have similar tropical forests and similar type of environment. So there's a lot to share between both countries. Also, in terms of agriculture, we have been working with JACIM and DVS as well, trying to expand Brazil's exports of animal protein into Malaysia. I don't know, there's something that a lot of people are not aware of, but Brazil is the largest animal protein, halal animal protein exporter in the world. Brazil has specialized in halal products because some 20 years ago, our business sector, agricultural business sector, realized that there was a market to explore. And we have been providing, in a way, food security to countries in the Middle East for quite a while. So we are trying to expand also in that sector in Malaysia. And this, I think it's very promising.
Indeed, it is. Well, we take a quick breather at this point as we come back in just a couple of moments to resume our conversation about Malaysia-Brazil relations and the future. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching The Nation Diplomatic Dispatch. In the hot seat with me is Her Excellency Daniella Ortega Menezes, Ambassador of Brazil to Malaysia. We're talking at length about Malaysia-Brazil bilateral ties, as well as the future ahead in terms of potential that can and should be explored. Now, both governments, Your Excellency, have identified a couple of areas, perhaps I could call them hot areas: semiconductors, energy, education, and even human development. These sectors are of interest and is on the priority list at this point. Which of these areas do you see as most promising in terms of long-term cooperation, but also perhaps for short-term or faster gain in that aspect?
Yeah, I think all these areas are very promising for us for the near future and long-term as well. I think what I would like to highlight is that countries from the global south, like I was saying before, should explore this type of collaboration. We don't need to look for technology only coming from developed nations. We can find interesting innovation happening in other countries from the global south. And this is what we are doing here with Malaysia. You mentioned semiconductors, and semiconductors is a very interesting case that both Brazil and Malaysia have been aiming to play a larger role in the semiconductor value chain.
Right, and just want to jump in here,
Yes.
because Malaysia is a global leader when it comes to the back-end assembly, whereas Brazil is pushing heavily into the front-end design. How do you see this integration or perhaps even cooperation working?
Exactly, you got the point. Exactly what I was going to say is that we noticed that both countries have this common interest of playing a larger role, and our national plans to develop the semiconductor industry are quite similar. So we decided that instead of being competitors, we should share and work together. So like you said, Malaysia has developed this capacity on the back end, and Brazil has developed capacity on the design, and why not, working together? So this is what we've been doing. The embassy here has played an important role in connecting the relevant, stakeholders from the Brazilian side and the Malaysian side, together with MITI. And it's been very gratifying to see how fast the stakeholders moved and joined together. So we have government agencies, we have universities, we have the private sector, we have, associations, and they are working together, signing MOUs, signing agreements, and trying to do things together. It's very exciting to see. We had, for example, September, October 2025, a group of 8 engineers from one of the leading universities in Brazil, spending time here in Malaysia, both in Penang and here in KL at local universities, and sharing knowledge and having courses here. We had other initiatives where we brought people who are designing chips in Brazil to give like a workshop here in Malaysia and share knowledge. So this is really
a lot of knowledge transfer,
yes,
and exchange
exactly.
as well.
We can grow. This is something we can grow together. You mentioned, mentioned energy as well.
That's right.
Should I go on?
Yes.
This is also something that Brazil and Malaysia have a lot to work together, because we share, like I said, the same interests. We want to promote sustainable development, energy security, and a transition into out of fossil fuels. Right. So there's so much we can work together. And Petronas, for example, and Inson, both companies are already working in Brazil in sort of renewables, so it's something very promising.
Mm-hmm. And the platforms to come together and work together are also quite set up in terms of ASEAN as a bloc, but then BRICS as well. Malaysia and Brazil have spoken often about the potential role as bridges between ASEAN and Latin America as well. Are there any initiatives that can really drive some tangible outcomes there? Yes.
Brazil is very grateful for Malaysia's chair of ASEAN in 2025 for having invited President Lula to come to the summit, because this was really for us a way of reaffirming our commitment to the region as a whole. We have been a sectorial dialogue partner of ASEAN since 2021. But Brazil has made a commitment and would like to move further with ASEAN. Prior to coming to Malaysia, President Lula also visited Indonesia, and there he actually visited the ASEAN Secretariat. And this was really to show this commitment, because, for us, Brazil, like many other countries, like Malaysia as well, we have been trying to diversify our trading partners all over the world. We don't want to be dependent on any single specific market. And our trade with ASEAN countries has been growing steadily. For the last 20 years, this has increased 10 times. So this is something that a lot of people in Brazil even don't know, that we are now having, stronger trade flows with countries in this region, comparing to other countries, other traditional partners that we have, like, for example, Portugal or France, or even countries in our region like Colombia. So this is something that we are trying to raise awareness, and the fact that President Lula was here, I think it helped a lot. And with regards to Latin America, we, of course, are a part of several regional initiatives. The most important for us is the group of Mercosur. Yes. Is our regional trading bloc. And Brazil negotiates any FTAs with the group of Mercosur. Mercosur has recently signed an FTA after 20 years of negotiations with the European Union, and AFTA as well. We've had an agreement with Singapore. We are currently exploring with Indonesia and Vietnam. And we are hoping maybe in the future we can also negotiate with Malaysia.
Right. Speaking of negotiation and the near future, the chairmanship for BRICS has passed from Brazil now to India. Likewise, the chairmanship of ASEAN from Malaysia to the Philippines. Is there a perception that within BRICS now that founding members might prioritize those who are fully involved within the BRICS vis-a-vis Malaysia as a strategic partner on the side? How supportive is Brazil to really rope in and bring in Malaysia as a full member?
Brazil is very supportive of bringing Malaysia as a full member. In fact, the joint statement issued after the bilateral visit here of President Lula, it states that Brazil supports Malaysia as a full member of BRICS during the expansion of the group. So I think this year the group should be starting again to debate whether to receive new members. BRICS, you know, it's a group that started in the early 2000s. It was basically initially an idea from a Goldman Sachs economist that looked into the 4 economies that were growing very fast at that time. And the group only institutionalized a few years later and invited South Africa to join. And it was only recently that there was an inflow of new members. So the group decided to consolidate first before it started a new, let's say, batch of members. But Brazil has been publicly supportive of Malaysia joining, and we think it should come soon, hopefully.
Right. Ambassador, what is your vision for Malaysia-Brazil in terms of relations as both countries play a bigger, larger, more integral part on the global stage?
I think it's very important that we support each other as countries from the global south. Malaysia has stated also during the President Lula's visit in 2025, this is being stated in the joint statement by both leaders that Malaysia supports Brazil's candidacy to be a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. This is a long-standing aspiration of Brazil to take a larger role at the United Nations. Brazil, likewise, has supported Malaysia, like I said, taking part in BRICS. I think Malaysia and Brazil have similar views in the world stage of non-alignment and independence and in favor of multilateralism. And this is something that today we see as very much valuable, and we should support each other in defending the same line. Yes.
Right. You've been here in Malaysia for some time now. What has surprised you most about Malaysia, especially when you draw a comparison to home, Brazil?
Actually, I have been here only for 6 months now. But I wasn't really very much surprised in Malaysia because I've been in the region before in my diplomatic career of 30 years. I had postings in China, in Myanmar, in Singapore. So I kind of knew what to expect in Malaysia. But having said that, I've been living here and meeting so many people. I've been very much impressed by the diversity of the people, the mixture of cultures, the varieties of food, and I think especially how people take so much pride in that, in their own food and showcasing their favorite dishes. And this is something I'm looking into working and seeing if I can connect Brazil and Malaysia through food. I think it would be a good bridge to bring both countries together.
And what would be your aspiration for both nations as we move forward? There's so many things that are in the pipeline and on that to-do list as well, Your Excellency. Very quickly, under 1 minute, because as usual we run out of time when we have interesting conversations.
Yes. Well, we look forward to working closely with Malaysia on the international stage, in the United Nations and other international fora. Environment is also an area I ended up not talking about that much, but Malaysia has been a great supporter of Brazil during COP30. Even this morning I participated in an event where Malaysia was handing over their outcomes, what the Malaysian delegation had done in Belém at COP30. And this has been very interesting to see how we can join forces and work together in the international stage.
Well,
yes.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador, for coming in and sharing with us a little bit extra behind the scenes of what is happening between Malaysia, Brazil, and our relationship together. Well, over the years, both countries have steadily strengthened partnership, building on shared interests and mutual understanding as well. And as both nations look to the future together, there is much potential for continued engagement that benefits not only Malaysia and Brazil, but also the broader international community. Thank you once again for coming in. I'm Jessie Chahal. Thanks for watching The Nation Diplomatic Dispatch, your window into the world of diplomacy and global affairs. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.